We have, I'm going to let Janet answer this, because we have a variety of different people who we have been working with. As you know, we just hired up a math coach also. Our teachers can do the modules. Our teachers don't have time to be doing the modules, teaching in class, and preparing tomorrow's lesson all at once. And that's an unfair burden to put on any teacher in any subject. So, you know, again, and we actually have, now that we have our math coach on board, we're actually we're training right now a whole cadre of substitute teachers, because if we pull our teachers out of the classroom to do more training in math with our math coach, we've got to have something in the classroom. The rollout is so problematic, and I just find it offensive for our teachers. And our teachers want to be able to do everything well. What they had over the summer, we could staff development, but as I said, we have grade levels of subject areas that we staff development over the summer without their modules here yet. Modules are still coming in as we're sitting.
In all due respect, though, I've been to 2 meetings. Last Friday, I believe it was, when at the middle school. I've down to this meeting. Dr. Cogliano, Dr. Seaman will very much vouch for the fact that I'm very involved in my children's education. I still don't have an answer from anybody how your modules are helping my child. They're not. So what happens to my kid when he graduates, if he graduates? Because under this...
He used to join the advocacy committee. It's not our module.
But you're adopting them.
But we adopted them.
You adopted them, so you had a say
That's
in
not
them.
true.
Not in time. Some of the modules we've been able to already reject. There was one that was quite offensive.
Only because the parents said.
How is it offensive? How is it offensive, sir? What did it say?
We didn't accept it. Ask me after the
No, we
Why
deserve
would
to know.
Yeah, we're here to hear this. What was offensive about it?
He doesn't have the script.
You don't want to talk about it?
But I'm still
Of course
lost
not.
as to,
Because you don't want people to know what's going on here with this.
I'm still
That's
lost
why.
how if you can't help my child.
Why do you say what it is
We're
then?
not going to get back and forth. We're going to ask questions respectful to each other.
I'm asking you
Understand that we are
respectfully.
what we are told. I encourage you to please join the advocacy.
I have no problems joining an advocacy group, but I just want an answer. And I'm not getting
Why do
it.
we have anything offensive with curriculum in school?
Dr. Cogliano and I pretty much talk very regularly. And I mean, he always has an answer for me. I have to give him his credit. He is a phenomenal educator. However, I'm still not getting answers how your module is going to help my child. You can't answer me, the teachers can't answer me. I'm told to hire tutors. Okay, I pay out enough money in taxes, why do I need to pay out for tutors as well?
Where's the
I
answer?
have a question, it's not in regards to the modules. At the last meeting, we had a discussion about the data dashboard, and I'm just wondering, because you told us that there was some kind of resolution you were working on, or a waiver, where does that stand? And if we're forced, or you're forced to choose this data dashboard, how do I opt my child out? I do not approve of my personal information going anywhere.
There's a letter you can sign.
They won't accept it.
Lawyer has been working on that issue myself for 2 weeks. So what the lawyer has told us is that they have foiled, which is Freedom of Information Act, all of the contracts of anyone with the state and so on. So we've always had report data to state that it's nothing new. That's how your kids graduate, that's how they get credit.
Right,
And
but
that's
now
who's-
they're requiring way more.
Hold on, who scores assessments and so on, they actually score our grades and so on. So that data we've always had to report. So it's a three-way triangle here from what we have been able to figure out. Our data, okay, is in our school code, which is a product that we use for scheduling, for report cards, for transcripts and so on. That's housed here. Okay, so when the commissioner says schools themselves use third-party vendors, it's correct. It's ours, we host it here. Okay, so let's take that off the table. It's not the cloud somewhere.
Right, I'm not talking
We
about that.
then have to turn, I'm trying to explain to you the whole thing because the answer will make more sense. We have always had to report public school in New York State. We can't report their data to the New York State Department. So we've been doing that for eons. That goes to a RIC, which is a Regional Information Center, which all of us belong. So if you're given a RIC, it's a public school. Okay? their geographic. That, they then send your data to state ed, and that's all done by cohort, that's how they set cut scores and so on and so forth. State ed is using In Bloom as their data storage. Our data is not going to In Bloom, our data goes to state ed. Keep in mind these two places. Ours is not going to In Bloom. We've never
Once it
given
goes to
any
the state,
permission
does it
to
go
them.
to
Ours is
In
going to state ed. If state ed uses them as a storage, we have no right to do anything with it, according to our attorney. So what we have done is we have filed a petition, you'll see it on the, that also on the site. The next thing that happens is all school districts are supposed to choose one of the 3 data dashboards. They're over here. The data that you would be able to use in a dashboard was going to come from In Bloom to the dashboard. We have said, none of our data is going, that we can say no to. Okay, that's considered a third-party vendor. We have notified him, Commissioner, via our lawyer and via our board, our data is not going there, not going there. So that's done, it's not going there. But our concern now is, what else will state ed require us to upload to them? State ed. And we have been following that, but I will tell you at this point, one of the things that people keep saying is, get out of Race to the Top and you don't have to do this. Race to the Top has nothing to do with state ed is using In Bloom as their data storage for every school district in this state, whether you're in or out. That's what we have our attorney working on now, is can we go through with state ed? And I will tell you this at the end of the day, we already had our attorney look, it's not a federal violation. The federal government has
Doesn't make
really
money
looked
off it,
this
yeah.
out and said, our state education association has a tremendous amount of power. We're limiting our data every place we can legally. We haven't uploaded anything new. And we have our attorney working with them saying, our data's going nowhere else. I don't know the end of the story. I know that our attorney, it's in his hands. The board gets an update every single week from the attorney. We're working with 5 other schools, actually sharing the attorney to do this. So we have some real concerns because no one at state ed seems to be able to tell us the end of the story. And that concerns us tremendously. What can people opt out of is they can opt out of testing, but state ed will always have data of public school students. That's how they set parents and graduation.
We can opt out of
So
testing,
we're
right?
continuing to push this. We'll continue to push this. But our data will never go to the dashboard.
So if they come back and say, sorry, you need to pick one, because we gave you money, you need to pick one?
Actually, our attorney, no, money has nothing to do with, remember, we get no new money. Okay,
No, but the money that you got for the Race to the Top, which all the other districts gave
$40,000
back.
3 years ago.
Okay.
Understand what kind of money we're talking about. That's $40,000.
$7 bucks.
Still money for our kids.
What? It's gone. Well, we spent
It was still a
$500,000 training our staff over the summer. So this is not about money.
It was
What our
40,000 over
attorney is
4 years,
worried
which was
about
10,000.
is If you pull out of Race
Yeah,
to the
it
Top,
was gone.
and then the state ed department links your future state aid to only those schools still in Race to the Top, will we lose millions? We wouldn't be able to open our doors. So our attorney wants us to move this way with blocking the data first before we throw something away that we don't even know we've thrown away yet. But the data dashboard, we had to name a vendor and then at the same time file through our attorney, but it may not be populated with any data. We have no permission and we have notice to litigate should they violate.
We have time for 2 more questions on non-come before or anything to talk about. There might be someone else in addition.
Why not come before?
You ready to ask a question? I can't help you there. The point is, lady in the back? Yeah, I'm sorry. No, go behind you. You're next.
Hi, Denise Donlin. I just have a question for either Robbie or Dr. Seaman about the Common Core night the other night. 2 things got said. I'm not quite sure that the teachers meant for them to come out the way they did. I know struggling to the point of frustration. We backpedaled on that comment. Still bother me at night that got said about the modules and the learning expectations. And also about going onto YouTube to watch teachers teach the modules. I'm bothered by that. I'm not going on to YouTube, I'm not encouraging my children to go on to YouTube, I don't know who I'm watching on the other end of the camera, and I don't believe that our district should foster that, to go on to YouTube to see
Denise, let me
teachers.
just give you two context things. When Mr. Olmsted said it's okay for kids to struggle when they learn something new. what is
To the point of frustration.
And he said
Kids have to
they
struggle.
struggle with frustration, but we don't want
It's
them
right here.
frustrated either. It was part of a bigger philosophy. It wasn't.
But I guess because it's happening,
Yeah,
so it's
you're
bothersome.
exactly right.
It's
Yep,
really
it
happening
is
this
lost
year.
that. Yep.
Allow your child to struggle up
YouTube
to
is an
the
interesting one
frustration point.
because our own teachers are doing YouTube demonstration things to show how to do things. And I'll use a great example. We have a teacher within our ranks who actually teaches a Regents Review Live for the state of New York kids. And I mean, the things that he has to be able to show things on there is amazing. It isn't a YouTube answer all. There is an educational piece to YouTube that shows, for example, but we have seen it in the past. To be honest with you, we've used it for quite some time, at the high school level. Because when you talk about physics or you talk about upper level count, that's normal. That's, a whole curriculum is there through the YouTube showing each of the steps and things. So I don't think that's the answer for things. What I do think is that you're beginning to see a lot of the online resources. What I'm troubled by, to be perfectly honest with you, is which are good ones and which aren't.
Well, that's what I asked that night, Robbie, and I said, and I turned to Dr. Seaman and you, because I knew you were in the audience, because I thought
We were
that it
told
was
we weren't
getting,
speaking that night by our curriculum people because they didn't want us to go off topic.
I'm
So,
sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, we were told we weren't speaking that night because they didn't want us to go off topic.
But I
one of the
thought that they
things-
didn't answer some of the questions, and I mean, I went home really bothered that night.
Yeah.
I went home more, not even confused, but more frustrated than I went into the meeting, because I think some things got said, and they did not explain anything about it. They just said to go on to YouTube.
Yeah.
Because there are teachers who are embracing these modules.
Well, one of the things, Denise, with the resources, and I think that they touched on it the other night too, we've got people, when you go on, just because you read it online does not make it true.
Absolutely, and that's what we
So,
teach our
one of the-
kids. So for a
right.
teacher in our district to say to go on YouTube and you'll learn the
Oh,
modules that
absolutely.
way, that's not my job.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we have met with, and we met again today with, is to take, we've gotten all the surveys back in, and we've broken them loosely, come into 5 different groups. And one of the things we're looking at is to expand what we have on a website and instead make it teacher resource by grade subject level
When are they gonna have time to do
instead
that?
of broad. Because when you're asking a question, and I'm thinking high school, and you're thinking second grade, we're answering very different questions. And we need to be able to drill down to the question and answer to understand what you are saying of my 4th grader in ELA is struggling with this. So we met today to talk about that website design on our own that begins to separate out things that way. Because I think that's part of the problem, is that if you're asking, you know, a secondary person the question, or a K-12 person that question, they're taking it from their own frame of reference, which may be nothing like what you were just asking from your head. So, yeah, we actually met on that today, and we're actually designing, let's get the right materials for the right grade level, for the right resources, and put them in there.
And I'm just gonna say in closing, I know we adopted the modules, it's, you know, it's too late now, we already adopted them. I just, whether you're gonna answer or you're not gonna answer, I wanna know, like, what resources are we giving the teachers to be able to adapt? I asked that the other night and I didn't get an answer.
Well-
What are we providing the teachers now that we're telling them they can adapt? What do they have that's aligned? Because I know Monroe Woodbury, it did not adopt the modules as their curriculum.
In
I've
some
spoken to
grade levels,
teachers
they
there.
did. In some grade levels, they didn't. In some grade levels, they're using a piece of this and a piece of that.
Correct, but
Well,
why, you know, what are we doing? What are we providing our
same thing.
teachers?
And again, Denise, we're doing some of the same things, but it depends. The answer to your question is very, very different by grade, by subject.
Right,
by
because
level.
I have 3 in
So,
3 different
we'll keep-
schools.
We're really continuing on that, and I will tell you, I give our curriculum folks standing back there, the hours they're putting in, and I will tell you, our teachers, some of our teachers are finding some great things that we're able to mix in too. But once again, as the module rolls out, as the new material comes, as the new reading books come, they're trying to teach, prepare and do all that at the same time.
And relearn things as it's coming in.
We have time for one more, and I saw the lady that was just sitting in front of you.
Hi, Gina DiMartino. Just going back to the In Bloom question, is it possible for your attorney to actually see a contract for In Bloom between the state and In Bloom? Because I've read that the schools have the option to delete information from In
Can I
Bloom.
just ask you to repeat that a little louder?
And your name, please, I'm sorry.
Gina DiMartino.
I just,
I've emailed you a few times on it. I've read that In Bloom, the contract between In Bloom and New York State, in that contract, it says that the schools have the option to delete information from there. So if SED is taking whatever information you give them, they are putting it, storing it with In Bloom, and In Bloom is saying that they cannot guarantee security, can your attorney actually look at the contract that the state has with In Bloom and see if it's true that we can delete our
Yes.
information from there?
Yes, and there, we've already started doing that, and I will share with you, because Dr. Shakin's here, so, there are really 3 lists of data points, all right? Some are required, some are only required if it's then going to go into the dashboard, and some are totally optional. We are saying we want anything deleted that is optional, or anything deleted that is not intended to go to the dashboard, because ours is not going to the dashboard. So, yeah, that's great. And we also have, what's his name, Gene Knutson, who runs the RIC, the Regional Information Center, which is our pass-through organization for our data to get to state ed. It's at the BOCES, you know. We also have a meeting with him, with all of our superintendents and data people, to again understand exactly what you just asked. Is in that contract, what's the minimum we have to have in there, not to violate the law, but the minimum we can have in there. So, yeah, great question. And actually, I would say, we're trying to get that meeting before the Thanksgiving break, so we'll even know more. But we're gonna have our data people sit next to us. Okay? And we have foiled that contract already.
thank you, everyone. I do understand frustration, and I serve you again. Appointed was ultimate, that's the problem. If you have questions, I'll hang out after the meeting.
Peter, what time was this meeting supposed to go till?
Don't make me yell back.
Peter, why don't you answer the question? You just ignore, right?
See me after the meeting.
You have a lot of parents here that want more questions answered.
I feel like I still got nowhere. I feel like
They just arbitrarily end the meeting.
I